come into this world with our eyes closed. And most of us choose to live our whole lives that way. We blindly follow anyone who will lead us, giving ourselves over to anything that provides us with a sense of purpose. For me, it was the Marines. I had enlisted 6 months ago with my best friend, Will. Now we were a half world away, being deployed into South Korea. We were brothers in arms. No matter how bad it got, I could always count on him to keep me in line.
Cheer up, Mitchell. Can't be all that bad.
I guess it's just finally starting to sink in.
No, this is what we signed up for.
Well, the old man was a leatherneck, so I didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah? I joined up because of the old man, too. More just to get away from him.
I can't get much further away than this.
All right! Listen up! We have our orders. Inserting an LZ Epsilon. Down and dirty just like we taught you. Everybody know what's going on? Everybody know they're going! Hoorah! Everybody ready? Hoorah! Let's do this! Mitchell, Hines, lead out!
Let's get it done.
North Korea was invading Seoul. We had to push him back. This wasn't just a mission. It was an initiation.
Welcome to Co-op Mode Reviews, where four guys talk about a game of their choice. I'm Mike Espy.
I'm Josh Ackerman.
I'm Chris Lowe.
Oh yeah, I'm Ben T. What's up?
What's up, guys? Hi, how's it
Call
going?
of Duty.
Everyone's Call of Duty. The Cubs and Indians are playing. Great. What is going on? It's madness, isn't it? Just pure madness.
2016, the year that just keeps on getting better and better.
The year to rat.
Meteor 2016. End it all.
So for episode 57, we are talking about finally a Call of Duty title, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and the warfare in this game is
The warfare is
really
so advanced.
It's so advanced. It's
more than proficient.
Yeah, it's just really.
It's not masterful, but it is advanced.
Oh my god. Yeah. I like how advanced it is. Yeah.
Beyond the normal benchmark for warfare was a bit long of a title, I think. So this is probably their fallback solution.
Okay. Well, that sounds.
I think
accurate.
they wanted to save Infinite, but now that they've done Infinite, they're not gonna. I mean, what are they gonna do next? Infinite plus one? I mean.
Boom.
Boom. Oh, drops the mic. Yeah, speaking of Infinite Warfare, Josh, this is very timely that you played the beta of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So why don't you give us a little taste of what your thoughts are on that right now?
Yeah, I downloaded and played it on PlayStation 4. I played it, so it was interesting that they chose to launch that multiplayer beta the night that Battlefield 1 came out. So I had Battlefield 1 pre-ordered. I came home all giddy and excited and popped in my Battlefield 1, and I realized that the Call of Duty beta was out, and I was like, well, I might as well switch back and forth between these and just see what's going on. So after a few hours of playing Battlefield 1, actually many hours, and a lot of Mountain Dew, playing Battlefield 1.
You get double XP from drinking that?
Yes. Yeah,
I was kidding. I didn't realize that was for real.
Yeah, that's a true story I just made up. So anyway, as I was playing Battlefield 1, I was like, hey, let's go ahead and switch over to Call of Duty to see what it's working with. My overall impression was that they kind of ripped off Titanfall, first of all. Like, I guess in Advanced Warfare, you could say that they started that trend because, what we're about to talk about, you get a jetpack in Advanced Warfare. That's one of the key mechanics that they've been using to evolve the series. But now you can also run on walls exactly the same way that you can on Titanfall, which that was kind of a mechanic that was unique to that franchise.
Can you double jump?
Oh yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff exactly the way that you.
Do you, when you sprint and you hit crouch, do you slide?
Yes,
God damn
from what I remember.
it.
So, and I, like the jetpack is also like floatier. Like you can kind of like hold like the X button and like float like left to right, sort of, before you like run out of gas or whatever. So it's like an even more robust.
Do they have the thing when you're like in Advanced Warfare, where in multiplayer, anyways, when you're on the ground, if you press a button and a direction, you like snap in that direction? Like you
I do not recall. What are you talking? Are you talking about like aim assist?
And no. In Advanced Warfare and multiplayer, like you press, I don't know, what is it, A or something, and like if you're strafing left, you'll like jet over to the left. You'll like
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like they're basically like dashes to the left and
dash.
right.
That's the word.
I don't recall. I haven't
Strafing?
really tried. No, it's not strafing. It's like think of strafing.
Oh, strafing,
like,
sorry.
with your jetpack, like you double tap.
And
Okay.
in any
and you
direction, you can do
Yeah,
that. In
you
Advanced Warfare,
strafe like
multiplayer.
really quickly.
Okay.
Like a burst. But anyway, yeah, I'm not positive about that one. But and then just overall, like the feel of the game, while familiar mechanically, other than that jetpack part, I don't really like how far they've taken the future warfare stuff. Like advanced warfare, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on it, but I feel like it is right at like the edge of like how far in the future I want them to go. Like it still feels a little bit grounded in reality, and like
It's at like the edge of future tech that you can actually see coming.
yeah, like this is you can at least draw some lines to like okay, like you could see how that
Exoskeletons exist. Railguns
right
exist,
exactly
finally.
exactly. And so like you can draw comparisons to like all right, like technology we have today could totally evolve into that. Like I definitely see where they're going with it. This is so far out there with some of the stuff that
Really?
it's just like this doesn't even feel like it's a real a real thing.
They
anymore.
have
It's not
ray
a real
beams and
thing.
laser guns.
They have laser guns, definitely.
What? Really?
Like the ammunition that I was using, I don't even think they were real bullets. Like it just didn't. It was like it made like this laser shooting sound. The guns looked like really bizarre.
Red box.
Like, the color palette is like super bright and colorful, which didn't help its cause at all. You know how like a hallmark of Call of Duty games traditionally is that they're kind of like I don't want to say drab, but they're more like gritty. Let's say.
They're a little bit subdued. They are kind of subdued. Yeah.
That's a design choice that they because these games are supposed to be kind of grounded in reality and to sort of draw on modern warfare. Haha. So anyway, like the fact that they chose this color palette is also very kind of odd to me. That like they're just like, well, forget all that stuff. Like let's just go completely off the reservation here and make this like thing that's so far in the future that it's just like I don't even you almost can't even call it a Call of Duty game anymore other than the mechanics. Like it's a freaking
Well,
I don't
is there a call, and do you do your duty?
that you do, Christopher. That you do. It's even more interesting to me, not to get too off the subject and go on a tangent, but it's even more interesting to me that this is the year that they chose to just go completely ballistic on the futuristic approach, and then at the same time, like Battlefield chose to abandon their sort of parallel like strategy and go the other direction and do a World War One game, which is something that hasn't really been touched in gaming a whole lot. I don't feel like there's been tons of World War II games, never really World War One, and so I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting how their strategies just sort of like diverged.
I would say like because of how Call of Duty is, it's a yearly annual thing, and that's like, and it only lasts for like a yearly annual thing. So it's like it's hot for a year, and then the new one comes out, and it's like okay, we're done with that one and move on to the next one. So the longevity of it is it's a very short time span to say the least, because if you're done with that, that can go into Advanced Warfare, because I have to make a confession because Ben and I we tried to play multiplayer, and boy, those servers are just raging right now. They are just full of life and just,
Well, and in its defense too, I would say like if I explained it before.
I know, man.
Oh.
I'm just giving it a hard time. Like I understand. It's just I get the idea. So go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off.
All right. Well, essentially, what's going on is as Josh knows, and pretty much the rest of us, Call of Duty and Battlefield, they're an annual thing. There's an annual release. So I think 2 years after the fact, of a game coming out, and almost to the day, I want to say a lot of the reviews and stuff that I looked at, and a lot of the videos were from November 1st, 2nd, 3rd of 2014.
Call of Duty always comes out like the first or second week of November.
Yeah, so we are kind of at a timely
November.
type of year, but yeah, I would expect either the servers to shut down after a while because everyone moves over to the new game, especially with a name like Black Ops or something like that. It's kind of a more of a brand name, like last year or something like that. But definitely something Infinite Warfare. That Warfare name, I think they're trying to say something.
Mitchell, over here! Give me a charge. Okay, time for a second. Ah! Ah! Oh, shit. Damn, I think my arm's broke. It fucking hurts. Okay, pull. Ah, shit. Don't worry about that timer. Okay, one more time. Pull! Lift it off. You gotta go now. Mitchell! We're out of time! You gotta jump now! It's okay. I'll see you on the other side. Mitchell! Base Badger 2 is down. I need immediate medevac. Hold on. Stay with me. You're gonna be all right. We're gonna get you home.
They always try to. They're trying to tie it, especially with Advanced Warfare. They're trying to somehow tie it into their previous Modern Warfare trilogy and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I would have to also add that you guys were playing on PC, and PC for Call of Duty games specifically, generally get maybe like 20 to 25% less player traffic than the consoles do.
That I did not know.
I don't know why that is. That's just the way that it's always been.
I think there's just other games on PC like that garner that no offense to Call of Duty or anything like that, but it is tend to be. I don't want to make it sound like it's a curse word to say it's a console shooter. I don't think anything's wrong with that. I'm just saying.
No, there's not.
I'm just saying that there's other stuff now like Counter-Strike and other.
The game was made like the big heritage of the current Call of Duty games. The heritage really goes back to like Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which was really built to be a console game.
Right.
So it's not really about like PC has better things to play. It's just it's not made for PC. It's almost like porting a Halo game to PC.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I also think that maybe PC gamers perhaps are a little bit more dedicated, shall we say, to gaming, and probably have a broader sort of library of types of games that they like to play. Whereas, probably at least a portion of these console gamers are people who just pick up games like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or bigger games like that, and they don't game quite as often as PC gamers. And I mean, a console is obviously a smaller monetary commitment than building a large PC, and so
for sure.
Well, no, you're right. Josh, you're on point, because like I could go through my video game library on Steam, and it's definitely I would consider it to be very diverse, to say the least. And I agree also that the consoles are, I hate saying the word limited, but it kind of is. But also at the same time, you can tell that even today they have integrated like the PlayStation Store or Xbox Live Arcade for you to purchase, indie developed titles. But I'd be willing to wager that those indie titles would be more on PC. I just feel like they have I mean, it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that I feel like consoles are just more geared towards mainstream audiences, and that's just how they've been for the longest while, and that's fine.
Or at the very least, that's like the approach that most customers take.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue you can probably get absolutely the best of indie titles on consoles. What you're really going to see on PC is just a fucking shit ton of them. But a lot of them, unfortunately, don't really have any business being played by people. Those are the ones that just don't get past that get through the filters and don't end up on a console. Is the big difference there. I mean, you the big ones this year, you're going to play on anything. Even Firewatch is being ported to Xbox. But
that's cool.
Say
though.
Firewatch?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Overwatch.
Yeah, he did.
Firewatch.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
But back to the multiplayer though. We also try to do like the zombie map pack. Well,
there was a zombie
map
pack
Steam
for Advanced Warfare?
Yeah, there's a zombie mode.
That's usually Treyarch.
And
that's usually a Treyarch thing. It's usually a Black Ops thing.
It was on there.
I think this is the first time Sledgehammer, or I think another person other than Treyarch, put a zombie mode.
Sledgehammer Call of Duty.
It was the first. Yes. Well, the first full length. I believe they worked on another section.
I mean, they've worked on the big thing with this release was that they're going on. They have 3 different, studios. They have multiple studios, but they're at any given time they're working on 3 different Call of Duty games. So the big studio that has the name on the game, Sledgehammer, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, their game comes out every 3 years.
Right.
So it's an annualized franchise, but they get 3 years to work on each game. Anywho, this was the first one, Sledgehammer. I'm surprised. I thought I had that Alien Extinction mode. Maybe that was Ghost.
Then I don't know. I don't know anything about Ghost.
I have not played a zombie mode thoroughly in quite a few Call of Duties, just because I think I haven't had friends to play with necessarily. So,
hello.
I never got into them. Did you guys get into it when you tried it?
A little bit, like a very little bit. I mean, by myself.
I tried to because it told me that I needed to download the zombie map pack, and I was like, oh, okay, sure, fine, whatever. I'm like, I don't think it was gonna be that expensive, but the thing was, when I went onto the Steam store, it had weapons for the zombie map pack, not the map pack itself. And I was like, okay, but it never specifically had the map that I needed to download for the zombie mode. I was like, okay, so what do I have left? I'm like, oh, there's the season pass. And you know how much the season pass was? It was $50, and I was like, fuck that. No,
was this the one that had Ron Perlman, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert
I don't think
Englund?
No. This had. That's what's so interesting. Okay, so that's what's so interesting about this version of Zombies. When I was playing by myself, I was just getting on. I was just logging on to see if there was any servers open. I was like, I'll just jump into a game with some random people or whatever. And unsuccessfully, because obviously we talked about the servers were really just dead. But I'm surprised that these modes aren't separate. Like they could sell the zombie thing for like $20 or something, because it's totally on its own a very nice looking. I don't know about polish because I couldn't really tell, but I mean it was playing fine.
Felt like a complete experience.
Yeah, it felt like almost like a complete experience, almost like you could buy it the way you did Left 4 Dead or something like that. But this is the one with I want to say Bruce Campbell was in it, but John Malkovich is the main character. He plays a janitor.
Oh.
And it caught me by total surprise. I was like, "Holy shit, is that John Malkovich? Holy shit!" And so it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of a pleasant surprise because it's just something I never heard about. I didn't even know that he was involved in a Call of Duty game, let alone, you know. I thought it was just Kevin Spacey alone.
Yeah, I thought so too. But that's news to me. But
So
yeah,
wait,
so
I guess I didn't really understand.
So,
You guys were being really figurative. What was the issue with Okay, one, did you guys play it on PC?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so was the issue with multiplayer was that there was no server activity?
Well, I didn't have any issue so much as I was like, I see. I can't really review the multiplayer, any of the multiplayer parts, without the servers being like full of people or people to play with.
So
Like,
there
it's
weren't
not-
people to play with.
No, yeah, the servers were empty when we were getting.
Are there
on.
dedicated servers on the PC, or was it a server list?
That is a question I cannot answer because I do not know.
yeah, it never really specified at all.
But there
I
were-
would bet
Just-
if you popped in the PS4 or the Xbox One version, you'd have no problem finding a match.
You're
'Cause,
probably
not.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
even though it's an annualized franchise, my understanding, people tend to find the one that they like, and they pretty much stick to that for a couple years, and then maybe
Right.
come in and out of like newer ones.
That makes sense.
Like I guess there are people who are still
I'm
hardcore
I'm
into
fine.
Black Ops.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other
that's
thing,
fine. So yeah, go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
there
go
was
ahead,
a Exo Survival, which was a co-op mode,
Okay, that was what I'm talking about.
and we did not. I don't think we even gave that one a try.
Ben. Yeah.
We just didn't pop into it. I was trying to get us to play at least the co-op mode, which I believe is probably somewhat of a horde mode, maybe. I don't know. Exo Survival kind of implies that you're like last as long as you
think
can at a thing.
That's
Do you
what
know,
I was
Josh?
thinking about. I think that's the mode I was thinking about that has the aliens.
Exo Survival, yeah, I think it's kind of like horde mode. I actually
Okay.
don't remember though. I did not play that this second time around.
Yeah, out of the was it 4 modes? Yeah, 4 modes. I think that was the one I did not get a chance to even look at all. Exo Survival.
Well, like 22 months ago or so, I played quite a bit of the multiplayer. So, I mean, I can talk about it with some authority.
Sure, yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was, at the time when it came out, it felt like the new, fresh injection that Call of Duty multiplayer needed to make it feel new again. And it really did. Like, and it was all because of the exosuit. Because all the exosuit stuff that you can do in the campaign isn't nearly as interesting or powerful as what you can do in multiplayer. You can do more stuff in multiplayer that you can't really do in campaign, or you can do it for like a level in the campaign. But it made it control a completely different way.
It's much faster, for sure. Like you just kind of like some people actually. It's interesting to see the play styles differ. Like I tend to play I use my jetpack sometimes in multiplayer, like just to kind of get out of sticky situations or like to get from up on top of buildings and stuff like that. And then I tend to play a little bit more tactically. Some people jetpack around the map.
They don't stop
so
moving.
quick. Yeah, they never quit moving, and they just
They have,
learn
like,
to
a
be able
knife
to
in
be
their
accurate
hand.
like that.
And they
So
never stop moving.
I haven't played I'm kind of slowly transitioning over to single player in some ways, but I actually haven't played a Call of Duty since I feel like what was that, like maybe Modern Warfare 3, I think. No, I played a little bit of Black Ops 2, didn't finish it. Not for any reason. I just other stuff took over. We had to play stuff for the show or something like that. But Call of Duty Black Ops and stuff like that. But that was, you guys are talking about the exoskeleton, and Chris and Josh, you both mentioned how the movement is so much different and you can utilize it. That was probably my absolutely most favorite thing about this game, about this, at least the single player game, is how it changes. And I'm not sure if SB, is this your first Call of Duty game?
Yeah, and this is the reason why it's my first one
Yeah.
is Josh had mentioned that a lot of the Call of Duty games were very much grounded, and it really tried to stick to kind of like the realistic factor, and that has never been my appeal at all.
Okay.
It's just not my
Right.
cup of
Okay.
tea.
Well, that's what I'm talking about here. Is I'm saying like that you may not. I'm not saying that you won't understand. I'm just saying in terms of having played all of the Call of Duties up until this point, that was the one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, like this feels and moves so much better now. Like
Boy,
just in the
I
way
played
that
almost all of them up to this point.
yeah. I think I had skipped. Did Ghosts come before or after this?
Ghost
I think
came before this one.
Yeah,
it
and
was the
so
first one on PlayStation 4.
okay, so I skipped that one. I
Out of the
skipped that
main
one.
line, I think I only missed 3.
Okay.
I even played the first one on PC.
Right,
The first one
okay.
was a PC game.
And a lot of them control in that very similar way. I think the first Titanfall, I swear, man, I think that first Titanfall knocked a couple of things loose in terms of mobility and stuff, because almost as a response, I think Titanfall came out in early 2014. By the time time that you're seeing this one come out, I'm not saying it was a response because it might have
There's
been too
no
late in the
way.
design.
There's
no way they
'cause
could have
both
designed
were
that in
developed.
time.
I mean, it's
Almost simultaneously.
It's
but-
possible that Advanced Warfare actually started development before Titanfall even.
Sure. Okay. Certainly. But you could definitely see that like trend of being able to quickly move. Like this, there was just you almost make the battlefield on this somewhat vertical. Like you're able to.
Yes.
There's a whole nother dimension
Verticality
of being
became
able.
important for the first time.
Absolutely. Like I was able to double jump up to a second story and start firing and taking cover and stuff like that. Like just the ability to double jump, let alone all of the ways you can run and move and stuff like that. That was my probably my most I was most impressed by that.
If
So.
only the weapons felt a little different. It still felt like I was just shooting the same gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my gripes with it. Like, no matter what type of different gun I had, like it was the gun that was labeled differently, I still felt like most of the time I was shooting the same weapon. And Ben, you were talking about the whole verticality thing. I did not really have that experience because there were times where I would try to get up to a second platform and trying to get like this whole vertical advantage, and it wouldn't allow me. The one that really sticks out in my mind that really irritated me was the cargo ship, where you have to blow up the ship later on the mission, and you come to like this almost like this big hangar, and you have this catwalk up high, and I was thinking, you know what, I could totally get up on this catwalk and like just annihilate everyone from the top. I mean, like that'd be perfect. But the thing was, the game didn't allow me to do that, and I didn't understand why. I was like, maybe I'm jumping wrong, maybe I'm not timing it right. No, come to find out, you cross that catwalk later on in the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's that irritated me a little bit, because I was trying to take advantage of what the environment presented to me as a possibility to play how I want to play, like get an advantage here, and I wasn't allowed to have that because it came later on during the game, and I'm like, that seems like a narrow hallway for me right there. It doesn't seem like it looks big, but it doesn't act as big, which really caught me by surprise. I was like, oh, that's really weird. Like that really irritated me, especially in that level.
Highlighting one of the things that's always been kind of a weakness of the Call of Duty games, and that is that it's kind of one of the true examples left of a fairly on the rails linear game as far as the campaign goes. It does that, for a reason to some extent, and that is that this is intended to be just kind of like a just a balls out action movie almost, and they're kind of They're kind of getting you from set piece to set piece and just trying to blow your mind and and create big explosions and all this other stuff. But that's not to say that isn't a valid criticism, because there's been plenty of other examples of games who have been able to expand on their environments and things to allow for at least a feeling of open worldness, like Uncharted, for example, and some of these other games that still have a linear storyline and still have linear set pieces and things that they're sort of carting you to, but still allow you to take different paths to that next checkpoint, if you will. So
a lot of games, they still have that corridor, but they've managed to make that corridor bigger with more paths through that corridor. You're still going in the same direction, and that is a valid criticism. Even having played previous Call of Duty games and knowing that's what they are, it's not surprising to me that you had that experience, but that doesn't change it from being disappointed.
Yeah, I think in the criticism about the corridor, but only being bigger, I think Dishonored would fit in that category, because no matter which way you took, you were still going straight to that one point at the end of the day, but yet you were allowed to maneuver the way you wanted to. There was points in the game where I would try to go up to the very rooftop using that blink, thinking I'm going to break this game, but really the developers really intended the player to get up that high and not crash the game or break it or anything or ruin the depth of field. I'm like, oh, that's really crazy to me. I've never experienced that. And here, it's very clear that the game is limiting. It's giving you a limit as to what you can do, because it's not only that cargo level, but I experienced it quite a few times throughout the game, thinking I'm gonna take advantage of a certain point because I feel like on ground level I'm just getting my ass handed to me, but I can't. It's not allowing me. And I get that there are some type of games where they just want you to have that linear experience, it's just run and gun like an action movie, like Josh said. That could be totally up someone's alley. Everyone has different tastes. I totally get it. But for me, coming into this franchise thinking, it's very futuristic, which is totally up my alley. I love that. So when Josh made this pick, I was like, you know what? I could probably see myself digging this game a lot, because I'm all about future sci-fi shit. And at the end of the day, I was just like, that it just feels really disappointing for how long this franchise has been around, and it doesn't really do anything to expand upon it. It's rinse, repeat, lather, it's just recycling itself. But you know what? It still makes money. So I guess, don't change what's not broke, I guess. Don't fix what's not broke, I suppose.
That's not really an excuse, I don't think.
I know, but
in my opinion, like you said, everybody's different. I can excuse it just because I know I still get what I want out of it, I guess. Even given that downfall, but I think that linear corridor type of gameplay was much more easily excused 3 or 4 years ago. We've seen such a evolution, and just the trend now is so much so that they're kind of starting to blend these open world games where you can go anywhere, and the linear path games that are just trying to tell a story and get you to the next set piece, to where it's kind of this perfect middle ground. And rather than that being a shining oh wow, this is a great new feature that this game has, that's the gold standard now. You have to have that. You have to give the player a sense of freedom, even if you're taking them down a linear path and a linear story. So
yeah,
this game did come out 3 years ago?
It came out
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Okay, so a lot has happened in 2 years, but at the same time, I think there are plenty of examples of games out at that point, and they probably should have, begun the process of starting to make things a little bit more free and
make more things advanced.
That's right.
It's you point out something, and I agree with you in that these games, specifically the campaign, they always They give me what I want, but at the same time, it's not doing anything. It's not doing enough that I think is different compared to what other games have done. But then it's weird because it's like, well, would I play it if it did what other games were doing? Because there are so few games now that do a linear, quick campaign anymore. Like, I would actually be upset if next year's Call of Duty was this big open world game with all this emergent game.
Rocket ready. Rocket ready.
200 meters to drop point.
Rocket ready. Rocket ready.
Order's clear. Get ready to drop.
This is it. Attach now.
Rocket ready.
Attach.
Because I don't need another one of those. You know what I mean? There are fucking shit tons of those already. But
Yeah, I
finding
get it.
somewhere in the middle and taking on some influences, yeah, like it could go
doesn't hurt.
places. So I'm of two minds
doesn't-
of it, in that like I'm cool with every year having something short that I can like slam in a. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of these games I played in a day. That's how short they are, but which is fine. But
Yeah.
another thing to bring up is it's like who is actually playing these campaigns? Because from what I understand, the stats are that like people come to these games for multiplayer.
Yeah.
So it's like
Right.
it almost makes you. Is it just to check a box and say we made a campaign so that you don't feel like you're being ripped off when you spend $60 to play what is mostly just going to be multiplayer to you?
I mean, that could be a good guess because if you,
Mhm.
if I'm sorry, I think it's a good guess because if, like we mentioned, it's a yearly annual thing. So I would think that since these games really don't have a longer lifespan, you want to give your consumer as much content as possible. So yeah, the campaign may just be, check off a box and here you go. We got something for you to play to get more accustomed to the weaponry, the movement, and then when it comes to multiplayer, then you can go balls out as much as you want to.
Well, I think you did hit something there.
Yeah.
I would disagree about the longevity. I think these games have longevity. I think fans
Mhm.
squeeze a lot out of them. Even for one version, they'll squeeze it out for years, or even if it is just a year, whatever. It's like the game that they're playing every night. But
Mhm.
I think you got a point about when you're releasing a game called Call of Duty every year, you've got to make people feel justified in spending $60 every year. It's like
Right,
I
yeah.
would have happily spent $60 on Titanfall 2 this year because the last one came out in early 2014. You know what I mean? But if one had come out in March of 2015, only a year after the first one, and it had been $60 with multiplayer only, I would have been like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know that gamers are willing to accept a $60 multiplayer only Call of Duty game. Like whether they
every
actually take the time to play it or not, like all the way through. Like I think prime examples are Battlefront and well, I guess not Battlefield. Battlefront. That's really the shining example. Like that was its primary criticism, if you guys remember. Like people were pissed that it didn't have a campaign.
But they still
And,
fucking bought that shit.
They still ate it up.
Yeah. I did end up buying it, but only after it was about $40. And the same thing went for Overwatch for me. I bought the $40 version, not the Origins. So if Call of Duty was like multiplayer only, it's going to be $40. I bet they could get more people to buy that over Battlefield if they did it. Oh.
Or maybe
Yeah.
have a separate version where they charge less for it.
Exactly. You could do
But-
multiple SKUs. You could do DLC. There's any number of ways that you could approach it if you.
But that's
really
when
do
you gotta
think
have your financial advisors crunch the numbers and say, well, okay, maybe we could sell more units at $40, but would it make more money than slightly fewer units at $60? I don't know.
But like you guys already you three have played obviously the most Call of Duty here, and you guys had no
a typical Call of Duty player though. Like
okay, but here
I played the shit out of Modern Warfare. I was typical for a minute, but
okay, but what I'm getting at is you guys know people who have strictly bought Call of Duty for multiplayer, so you know that it's not just a rarity, that's the bread and butter of that franchise.
I had friends, I still know friends that buy every Call of Duty that comes out. They'll pre-order it, and they will not touch the campaign. I have friends that have played the last 5 Call of Duties in a row, 5 or 6, and have not touched a single piece of the campaign in any of those games, because all they've done is buy it for the multiplayer. That blows my mind. I at this point, I kind of get it. If you've been consuming the campaign for so long now, you're like, all right, this is the same shit over and over again. It's just one boat blowing up after another type of thing. I can almost excuse it more now if you've played all those, but if you haven't touched them at all, that always blew my mind. I'm like, what the
You've already put 100 hours into this. You think you would have spent a couple hours on the campaign? I don't know. I guess, but there's no, there's nothing you can get out of the campaign and bring over to multiplayer though. There's no learning the guns. It's not I mean, for somebody who plays Halo multiplayer, you can get something out of playing the campaign first, and that it's gonna give you time to figure out how they've tweaked the guns and everything. What's changed? All right, bring that into multiplayer. To talk about Titanfall 2 for a minute, that fucking game, that campaign feels like a 6-hour tutorial for the multiplayer. In that, you spend all this time learning all these separate mechanics, basically, that you're gonna bring into multiplayer. So it's there's a justification, but it's what is the if all I want to do is multiplayer? I could kind of understand it. What is the fucking justification to play the campaign for you at that point?
Well, here's the thing. All those friends that I just mentioned, guess what they do if they aren't playing Call of Duty? All they do is talk about sports. They're those friends, right? So they're the people who are, if it isn't competitive, they don't give a shit about it.
Okay.
So the campaign's not competitive. They're not playing against real people. Their minds just go numb and their eyes glaze over, and they're like, "Wow."
You have a window into type of people that I don't know. So that's enlightening.
Yeah, and these are people who maybe just some of them. Honestly, that's the only game they play. They won't play anything else but Call of Duty. They buy their console for Call of Duty, and that's the only thing they play.
Oh
but
yeah,
put
I mean,
150 hours.
I walk into somebody's house, and what do I see next to their PS4 or Xbox? I see NBA Live, Madden, Call of Duty.
That's exactly right.
I didn't think about that. Wow. But I have to. I would go along with Ben's sentiment that if they would drop the price and just deal out a $40 version of just multiplayer, and I know there's Josh's friends, I would probably consider them to be rare cases, maybe not rare cases, maybe it's a moderate case that people do that, but $40 just for multiplayer, I would be willing to bet that more people would buy it, because I know that I think Overwatch, I could be wrong on these numbers, but they sold over 10 million copies, and that was just the $40 version, and with some inclusion of the $60 version. But
it's a new IP too.
It's a new IP. Don't get me wrong, but that's still pretty damn good. And with Call of Duty, with the franchise as it is, it's a big powerhouse. It's got this brand name recognition.
It could be it could be an old habits die hard. It could be that, but I don't know what the historical sales are on Call of Duty. The question is do they even see a need to change anything? It's why don't they do this? Well, maybe it's because they don't see a need. I bet if they saw a huge change in their sales numbers, they would try something different. Probably, something that, as much as it's kind of scary, I guess a lot of games are actually doing pretty successful with their post sale things that you can buy, like skins and things. I guess games are doing pretty damn well at that. Like the Division and stuff like that are doing pretty well at people spending a couple dollars on skins and things that don't really affect the game, just affect your look and whatnot. I guess there's money to be had on that.
If it's at the right price, yeah. So back to the campaign, because considering that's what I've only experienced, and and I think that's what Ben only experienced for this time around for the most part. So I was talking to you, Chris, about at Justin's board game party that was a lot of fun too, about the gameplay and the story, and it's something that when I start focusing on story, that gives me the indication that perhaps the gameplay isn't grabbing my attention.
You're not into what you're doing.
It was, and it was very evident, when we first started this podcast with Crisis 2, where we had Ben raving about it, and I'm just like, this fucking story, yada yada yada, just being kind of like a whiny bitch, I suppose. But
no. Not you. No, I'm just kidding.
Ben, I hate you.
don't do that to yourself. Stand by yourself.
Oh yeah.
Love you. Love
you. But it was one of those things when I start focusing on story, like I'm trying to grasp onto something here, and even the story, I was just like, what is this? Like, how do they pass for something? But we had already mentioned that it's probably a checkbox, but I have this hard time thinking it was a checkbox sort of thing, because I know one of the biggest things in this game, actually not biggest thing, but person, was having Kevin Spacey in this game. And I go, okay, you have Kevin fucking Spacey in this movie. He's such a great actor. So how are you going to use him? And spoiler alert, he turns out to be a typical white male, kind of power hungry, money hungry individual, and turns on you, and you're just like, oh, that's how you use
typical
Kevin
white
Spacey?
Male.
It's always a white guy anyway.
I am honored to be the first CEO of a private corporation to become a member of the United Nations Security Council. Unfortunately, my appearance today has been clouded by a flurry of speculation that my company is developing a weapon of mass destruction which would be capable of targeting specific ethnic groups. I want to address these allegations head on. Are we developing such a weapon? No, we are not. Because we've already developed it. But with all due respect, the United Nations is a relic from a different time when nations were unique in their ability to solve the world's problems. But that just isn't the case anymore. Primarily because you have outsourced the job to me. I have sent people to die in your wars. So I feel uniquely qualified to tell you, your wars don't work. Which is why my priorities have changed from profits to policy. Because politicians don't know how to solve problems. But I do. So let's be clear. I am here to solve the world's problems. And I believe the world's problems begin with you.
It's just
but this
really,
time he's not British.
So,
he's Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, there you go. It's Kevin Spacey being Kevin Spacey. I don't know. He was just kind of mean, I guess. That's all he was.
He was a bad boy.
Every once in a while, it's Samuel L. Jackson.
You're right. You're right. That's true.
You're all right. Yeah. I just think about like some of his bigger roles, like in Seven, he was very memorable in Seven in The Usual Suspects, and then more recently the House of Cards. And I'm just thinking, he's got a wide variety, he's got a wide range here. And
it does beg the question: why
is-
do you pay to get Kevin Spacey? And like, you don't really get that much.
Yeah.
I mean,
for
when
the
he's-
name to attach to the franchise, right?
Why do they think people give a shit though?
I don't know.
Like, I cared when I saw the trailer, because when I saw that trailer, I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna do something different with Call of Duty. I got excited. I was about 25% excited about Kevin Spacey, 75% excited about Exo 6.
Wow. So you were like, it sounds like you were legitimately like, hey, shit, could be a pretty amazing thing here.
Well, I mean,
and
that's
I mean-
hyperbole. I didn't think it was gonna be amazing, but
okay, fine, whatever. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
um,
But I agree with you.
Go
We
ahead, Ben.
discussed it. I agree with you on the notion that, like, when you're not into what you're doing in a game, you start to focus on other things, and then they really
Mhm.
stick out to you. Like, the example I made to you is that, like, Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor plays like butter. It plays so well. It plays better than those Batman Arkham games. It's pretty much a rip-off of them. It is it plays better than your traversals like Assassin's Creed. It plays better, but goddamn, if I didn't give a goddamn shit about that story, because I don't know what was going on. I just know it was really stupid, and I didn't give a shit about it. All I cared about was killing orcs and Urukai or whatever.
But
they
it
are.
was fun as hell.
Yes. Where if it
I
didn't
can't
play
wait.
well, I probably would have started noticing the story because I would have been looking for something.
yeah. I could say the same about Halo 4 because I thought Halo 4's story was like, it was blah, but the gameplay was really good because as we had mentioned in that podcast, like every weapon felt great. You never felt like you were underpowered. You felt like you still had a fighting chance, even if it was like one of the smallest weapons that was available to you. Like that felt good. And not only that, I thought the level designs were pretty damn good too. I remember you guys talking about some of them were kind of like Tron-like, but I'm biased when it comes to Tron, so I'm like, I eat that shit up. Like I don't.
What
care.
was Tron like?
But some of the levels in Halo 4,
yeah,
like near the end, yeah, it had a very Tron-like vibe to it, and I'm just like, okay, that's cool with me. I'm all right with that.
But going
whatever.
back to your point, what you're
Mhm.
talking about is a huge factor in whether or not I'm into this year's Call of Duty. Now, I actively disliked
Yeah.
Call of Duty Ghosts. I actively disliked it because, one, it was like they took this weird step back because Black Ops 2 came out the year before that, and Black Ops 2 did some cool shit. And then Ghosts felt like another Modern Warfare. And then, like, something that I feel like I don't know if any of the developers of Call of Duty know this, but if you pay attention to each campaign, right? Look, I mean, they know
Mhm.
this. They know that you are essentially following one person the whole game. There's always a dude that you're following. Now, I don't know if they know this, but it's really important whether or not you like that person you're following. The only reason I cared about Modern Warfare is because Captain Price was fucking awesome. And Black Ops, Frank
Agreed.
Woods was a crazy ass motherfucker, and I had to see what that dude was gonna do. So yes, I liked following him. But that, your brother or whoever the fuck that dick was in Ghosts, fuck that guy. And also, I had a really huge. That game is so fucking linear. In the beginning of that first level of Ghost, so I'm on a tangent here, but this is the only thing I remember about this game is you're out in the woods or something with your brother. Your dad shows up, and you're supposed to follow him, right? And there's this whole area around you that you can walk to, but if you walk away, you lose the mission because you're not following them.
It does do weird. That was not a good moment in Call of Duty history.
Oh.
Chris, you're gonna
Yes,
be alive,
and
man?
then in Advanced Warfare, there's that. Was it Advanced Warfare? Was that the one where, yeah, you're at the funeral and it was press X to pay your respects?
Yep, that was just gonna bring that up because it was just one of those weird moments of like I think they tried to make it respectful, but it just came off a little awkward and not very. It just wasn't effective.
Overly dramatic.
I kind of like
It
the
was
dude that you're
overdramatic.
following in this game because he sounded like Jason Statham.
Prophet, they just executed a hostage. We're striking now.
Copy, Atlas 2-1. You have execute authority.
All teams, we're green. We're green.
3 mics to phase line Alpha. Clock's on.
If we attack now, they will kill the Prime Minister.
They'll kill him anyway. We'll get him out alive.
Keep it tight.
And
And
I thought it was Jason Statham for a lot of it. And I liked that. I liked him at the most important moments, like when you're trying to get him to believe that Atlas is up to no good. He doesn't just be like, "Oh no, man!" He actually like believes you.
I wish he sounded like that. I gotta say, I should probably take this moment to stand up for what I thought was a really good performance by Kevin Spacey. I actually thought that was one of the highlights of the game for me as well.
I'm not saying I'm not saying his performance was bad. I'm just saying the character he played was.
Oh yeah, the story exactly. Like you gotta walk in knowing what you're getting with a Call of Duty, and I guess maybe expectations were up story wise for you or something like that. You've never played one, so there's no way you could have known. But for someone like me, who's like just like the rest of the other two guys, we've played Call of Duties before. I knew going in it was gonna be this most ridiculous. Like I've seen the ending to Modern Warfare 3 where the where the crazy shit pops off at the end. I won't spoil it because it's just so stupid. But essentially, the guy accidentally hangs himself at the end. I'll just leave it at that. It's so stupid. Anyways, I mean, there's no way your character could have known to do that. Anyway, I won't get into that. But
yeah.
But I will say, I do think that having given an opportunity to use an actor like Kevin Spacey. Especially because I thought he played the president, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get to see him do some conniving little.
Yeah, I think I thought
things
that too when I
thought he
first
was
saw
gonna.
that trailer.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta see this because I love House of Cards, so it's one of those things where I'm like, I gotta watch this performance, and he's good. But he's not. He's way more campy than he ever is. In a thing like that. But I must say that actually made me. That is actually kind of a high point for me, was seeing Kevin Spacey and watching him kind of chew the fat a little bit in the scenery and
Chew up the scenery.
Yeah.
And to your point, I agree with you. It's like I agree with both of you. It's like I feel like he was underutilized, but man, was he on screen? When he was on screen, it was like, shut the fuck up, Kevin Spacey is talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Well, I kind of felt a similar way when I started Zombies and I saw saw John Malkovich. I'm like, what? And I like threw my hands up in the air and I'm like, wow, okay, I'm into this. And we ended up getting into a little bit, and he says his one line, here and there, but it really didn't have a reason for kind of existing. I don't know. It was just silly.
You mean John Malkovich wasn't like screaming at?
No, he
you
was
or
screaming at
anything
the
like that?
zombies. He was just like, but he was just like cursing at them, and it was just kind of hilarious.
Okay, good. Well, at least he was utilized to his full potential, just cursing at zombies.
I mean, why not?
I fucking hate the Atlas Corporation.
As far as the Call of Duty-ness of the game, like the levels, set pieces,
Yeah.
I actually really liked it in this game. I thought there were some really, really cool moments in the game. And they always do this thing in each Call. As linear as the games are, they always have a couple levels where you at least feel like there's some emergence to it. And there was that one where I can't remember what the fuck you were doing, but you went to this. There was that base. You were sneaking around. You were sneaking.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I do remember that.
There was stealth, and it was pretty good.
I agree.
That
do some more of that.
That one. Yeah, that moment was really good. The car sequence was really good. but I hated the QTEs because I had no idea QTEs were involved in the game until I was too late pressing the fucking button. I really didn't know. Like, that's the one thing that threw me off. I'm like, wait, what? I was supposed to press what now? Like, this game did not clue me in on I was supposed to be trained for this. Like, when you play Uncharted, you know when a QTE is going to happen. But the thing is, QTEs pop in this game in the thick of the moment. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, I don't... What?
I can't remember last
like,
time I played a game with QTEs.
We've had games
yeah,
on
and
before where we've discussed this, and like there's good ways to handle it and bad ways to handle it. And unfortunately, the QTEs in Call of Duty aren't necessarily always handled in the most graceful ways. And
no,
I did have actually a couple of frustrating moments, like particularly that one moment where you jump from the the bridge onto that car or whatever.
Gate bridge.
And then you jump over to the car, and then you're supposed to click something, or you're supposed to hit the button, and then it rips off the door, and then you jump at the last second or something. Like I had a rough time it recognizing my button click or something at the exact right time, and I died 6 times at that part.
Okay, so it's not the PC version. Okay, so here's what I experienced. It was even if you do not press the button right away, it will still it. And if you press it maybe a second or two late, it will still flash on the screen you need to press this. But even if you still do, it still counts it as a fail. You have to immediately press that button in order to succeed. That's my experience, and there were several times I have died because of that. I was like, oh, I didn't know. Fuck. And it's oh, I was a second late, but it was still showing on screen that I still need to press this button. But the game was like, nope, fuck you, Mike. You failed, and you need to restart. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You're just so kind. But yeah, it's it was very frustrating, and it ruined that car chase for me, because that car sequence was so much fun. I was like, oh my god, this was a fun sequence. It was a fun roller coaster ride here. I'm like, this is awesome, and this mechanic is killing it for me, just killing it for me. Because if I'm just off by a second, it doesn't count, and I'm like, this is bullshit.
Cheap way to force interactivity too. I don't really understand necessarily the function of it in that sort of a sequence. It's trying to make you feel like you're a part of it, and that you're actually in the shoes of the person that's doing it in some way, shape, or form. But it's doing it in a really one-dimensional way. Tap this button once to tear off the door of the car, and I don't know, just doing it in a way in which you can fail doesn't really help that mechanic at all, or that.
No, it doesn't, and it's just I don't want to say trash, because that's just the wrong word, but it was just not welcoming at all. It just really irked me to no end.
Yeah,
and
I don't think that being said, I don't think that there were that many other instances where I was frustrated with those.
No. I think there was. It just happened at the most. It just happened at the inopportune time, because the time was really exciting, and it just ruined my moment in the game that I was really enjoying for the most part, and this just fucking happens. I'm like, okay, that's great, whatever. But but speaking of moments, my favorite moment, it's really weird. In Detroit was my favorite moment in the whole game, and specifically the very beginning of it, because it's one of the very few times, if not the only time, where you're not dropped off at a point and you immediately begin to start shooting people. You actually kind of go through this camp that Atlas had set up for Detroit for people to kind of to get back up on their feet because prior to that, like, it showed that Atlas came and kind of like really helped out the city and the people to, get like a second start or something. And it was kind of like one of those cringeworthy like army infomercials, because we're like, Atlas, we're the way forward.
It reminded me of Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I mean, something to that extent. Yeah, that's even much more accurate right there. And so you're just walking through this camp, and you're following your partner Gideon and your other partner, and it's just a conversation between the two, exchanging. Basically, you're getting your exposition here, but at the same time, you are looking around you at the camp and the city in the distance, and just see how kind of like dilapidated it is right now. Like, it has gone to shit. Of course, Detroit is always going to shit. Like, go figure, right? I feel so bad for Detroit. Oh my God. But it's such a good moment, because it just allows you to be more immersed in the world. And then you get on your like your hover bikes, and you start going through the city, and it's a linear path, of course, whatever. It's a gamey thing, but I was like seeing some landmarks from Detroit that I was like, oh my God, that actually is the bank right there, like Detroit First Bank. I was like, holy shit, that's accurate, it's very scarily accurate. So I thought seeing that was really cool. But while you're going through the city, I have to admit, it felt like a totally different game for a moment, because in every like post-apocalyptic like setting, it's always like involves like some alien creatures and whatnot. So as you're going through the city that has seen way better days, it totally felt like a different game for me. I don't know about you guys, but it didn't feel like a Call of Duty game for a moment. It was so, I don't want to say weird in a bad way, but it was weird and like in a good way. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And then you realize you're just shooting other human beings, and I was like, oh well, sorry. Like I just in like it looked like hazmat suits or something. I could be wrong, like advanced hazmat suits or something like that to some extent. But did you guys get any vibes like that? Totally felt like a different game for a moment, because it was really quiet. It was a quiet moment. It was quiet for a very long time in that portion, that it didn't feel like a standard Call of Duty. Or am I interpreting this wrong? You correct me. Feel free to correct me.
I don't know if you're wrong. I would say you had the experience that you had. I just didn't feel like that was out of place. I felt like it was totally part of, Call of Duty specifically, when they switch it up with their trilogies and stuff like that, they always try to throw some monkey wrenches in what you're expecting. I'm gonna be spoiling what was it like? It's got to be like an 8-year-old game now, but Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the first of the Modern Warfare trilogies, had one of your characters die. One of your characters dies from a nuclear explosion. You like wake up from a wreckage of a helicopter, and you're crawling, and you keel over and die, and your character moves on to a different, or you move on to a different character, and the story continues.
That happens in another one too. There's another one.
Okay.
That,
yeah, I think you're right.
I think it's like Black Ops. Maybe Black Ops. I don't remember. One of them you get captured and then you get shot in the head.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it might be Black Ops, because that one is told via someone retelling the story years later as an old man.
Black Ops flips the script and plays with the unreliable narrator.
Sure, right.
So yeah, they all do something a little different.
So I guess when I saw them do that thing with a cool effect to what was going on with Detroit, I guess I really didn't. I don't know. The game didn't really change for me. It was just another piece of oh yes, okay, I see that this is the part of the game where they do this and stuff like that. It is really part of the formula for them to switch it up sometimes.
Okay.
And to have some quiet moments.
Yeah.
It was a really good quiet moment, though. It was really good. That was like one of the very few times where I felt really immersed in the game.
Talking about
because
each of them. Usually, when I
Yeah.
notice something that feels on Call of Duty like, as you're kind of pointing out, it usually comes in like mechanics, something gameplay related, like that stealth mission I was mentioning in Black Ops 2 when they had levels that were actual real time strategy, had real time strategy mechanics. That's usually
the Detroit level really kind of like really hit it home for me because I kind of got like, I guess you'd say kind of like the best of both worlds for me, where it just allowed you to take in the environment, and then you did a simple rescue mission, and then you had like a roller coaster like escape chase sequence going on, which wasn't bad at all. Like I thought that was actually kind of fun to do. So like that was like one of the best levels for me, and that was the 5th mission.
Target is secured.
And I think after a while, it kind of got, I don't know. I don't want to say, it kind of got middling for me for the most part. But there were some cool moments here and there. But yeah, I would say that Detroit really sticks out to my mind for the most part when it comes to this game in particular. Yeah, let's go in some final thoughts. Who wants to go first? Who wants to go
You
first?
do.
Me?
Do
Okay.
it.
Oh shit. Oh, the pressure's all on me.
Hear them thoughts.
Yes.
Thoughts. Fine.
I think overall, I was actually really expecting to like this game because, as I had mentioned, I'm really into science fiction and anything like advanced, like no pun intended, warfare. It seemed really kind of like up my alley and really kind of get away from the realistic factor. And so when Josh made this pick, I was like, yeah, this is totally awesome. And I would say after the first couple missions, I was starting to feel the effect of slogness. Not slogness, but it just wasn't really grasping my attention. But there were moments in this game that are fun, but sometimes that felt like I just got hindered back because of QTEs, which really annoyed the piss out of me. And then the very last level, when you're in the mech suits, kind of going balls to the walls with that felt really gratifying because I was always wondering if I was going to ever get to try those mech suits at all. And doing that maybe like a couple times in the game, I think they made those moments count for me. So yeah, overall, like I thought it was okay. I mean, it's not terrible by any means, and it's unfortunate I didn't get to try the multiplayer. So if I have to just strictly give the campaign itself, so I can't say the full game of Advanced Warfare, I would say the campaign's like a 6 for me. Yeah, the campaign is just a 6. So yeah, I would wish I got to try the multiplayer and some of the other modes, but that seemed to be very unsuccessful for me. So that's unfortunate because I didn't get the full Call of Duty experience that I was expecting to get. So anyway, I'll pass it off to Josh, who and the rest of the guys who probably can give you to the audience a better idea of what I missed out.
Yeah, man. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I might have. I don't know. It's hard to score, given that I played this 2 years ago. I picked it up at launch, and I'm sure that I felt a little bit different about it this time than I did the first time that I played it. So I'm gonna kind of like mix those two together the best I can. You know, like Chris and I were saying, I guess the mechanic with the jetpack for multiplayer is something that this game gets very right. And it was a time when Call of Duty sorely needed something to spice up the gameplay. It had kind of delivered pretty much the same product with different weapons and maps and whatnot for quite a few years in a row. And so that's a mechanic that definitely helped give it some longevity and keep it in my PlayStation for quite some time. That being said, it's still a Call of Duty game. It's still like, you know, you're either gonna love it or hate it for what it is. I still believe that not many games, pretty much no games, have taken down Call of Duty as like the king of multiplayer first-person shooters just yet. Battlefield is pretty damn close at this point. It's a different experience, but I would say it's neck and neck. But aside from those two franchises, like, I can't say that another franchise has come along and just dethroned it completely for me in terms of just like basic mechanics, right? Like this was the series that kind of like redefined how how shooters, the standard for shooters, I guess, in terms of the way that you control things, kind of the way that Halo did many years ago. So they've stuck with what worked as far as that goes, and that's okay in some respects. The campaign, I would say this falls somewhere in the middle for me in terms of all the Call of Duty campaigns. Like, I think it does a lot of cool things with the set pieces, but it doesn't blow me away. So yeah, it would sit somewhere around the middle for me in terms of campaign. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up and give this probably an 8.5.
Gotcha. CE low, so we can allow you to vacate the premise.
So Call of Duty is kind of an institution in its own. The first Call of Duty is the first game, the very first Call of Duty came on a PC. I don't think a lot of people actually played. But that game was the first game I remember ever having aiming down sights. I think it was the first. Having a butt aim down sights. Blew me away. World War II shooter. It was the tail end of that World War II shooter thing. It was kind of really the last one you could really deal with. And they started making that franchise annually. I mean, Call of Duty 2 took 2 years from the first one, but then there were some console exclusive ones that they made. So they started immediately making that thing every year. And so Call of Duty has constantly needed something new after a while. So, like, there was Call of Duty 2 felt like they kind of pushed it forward. And then you're like 3 came out. I never played it, but when I read it, it was just like more of the same. But then 4 came out, and it's like, okay, Modern Warfare, which right now does not sound interesting, but in 2007, like, nobody was really doing a Modern Warfare themed shooter. And then it completely changed multiplayer games. and I think it's really easy to forget how important Call of Duty Modern Warfare was for multiplayer. It was the first multiplayer game to have progression. Like, in that, like, you increase your levels, you unlock guns, you unlock scope attachments, you unlock, and then you have all these other added abilities like stopping power or deep penetration.
A revolutionary and very addictive mechanic.
Yeah.
That I might add.
Kill streaks. So, like, a way to reward being good at playing it. So it wasn't just like, here's the weapon set, play. It was like, you play and you're getting new shit for playing it. Which, when you don't have that now, you kind of are disappointed because it's like, why am I even playing this if I have nothing to look forward to? It's kind of why I burnt out in the first Titanfall. Because I unlocked, like, everything I wanted, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So, like, that was important. And that came out in 2007. And so 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, or no. Those Modern Warfare World at War, Modern Warfare 2 World at War, those felt a little bit like some of the same stuff. But then they did Black Ops, and it felt like they were doing something a little different because that was the first time they did something. It was the first time when a Call of Duty game kind of had a narrative where you played, because Black Ops you played as one character, one fucking character, and there was a narrative. So that was cool. But then, as far in terms of the actual playing the game, it never felt like it was changing from the very first game. Advanced Warfare was the first time where it felt like the core gameplay changed in a significant way. So I gotta give this game props for that, because if you're just looking at these games, if you're just looking at Call of Duty games, you're not even thinking about other games, because Call of Duty is kind of its own thing. How good of Call of Duty game this is. I had not seriously played a Call of Duty multiplayer game since Modern Warfare 2. Not because I really got sick of the other ones. It was because they came at a bad time in my life where I was like, if I'm gonna get good at this, I gotta play a certain amount of this, and I'm not going to take that time. Advanced Warfare was the first one where it's like, all right, I gotta get into this because this looks like they're finally doing something like to really get me back in. And I got into Advanced Warfare multiplayer. I sucked at it, but I got into it. So, like, that's where most of my points come from for this. The campaign was actually disappointing for me overall, because I as different as the multiplayer felt, I felt like a lot of it didn't translate consistently, which I found. So, I guess just to sum up, I'd say I give it an 8 out of 10.
So what was your score?
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay.
And that's heavily weighted for multiplayer, which is probably most Call of Duty players. And
okay.
I've not really been tickled by a Call of Duty game since this one. I was actually very disappointed by Black Ops 3 to the point where it's the first campaign where I didn't even finish it. I'm just like, fuck this shit. Black Ops 3.
Oh, I would totally agree with that.
Yeah, I started playing Black Ops 3 and I'm just like, man, like, they tried to add so much stuff to the game where it actually got a little too complicated. That makes, you can fucking believe that idiosyncrasy right there. Or that irony right there. Fantastic.
Yes. Oh, I was gonna say if Chris, if you wanted to go, that's fine. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I can only review the campaign since I really didn't have much time with the other stuff. But I'm reviewing the other campaigns as like if I were to place these in order. I'm not going to count the first couple of Call of Duties, the World War II ones, because those have a special place in my heart, and I do love them a lot. But I'm going to shuffle those aside for a bit, because I feel like those are different games in a sense of what they're doing. But starting with Modern Warfare, yeah, I was going to say, I think Modern Warfare is still the top for me. I really can't get over that sniper level. Nothing in this game made me feel that way. The way
so good,
right? Where you play as Captain Price for a level.
My memory of that is awesome.
Yeah. And I remember not hearing about it. Like just being caught completely by surprise by it, and that's always the best. And nothing in this game, not that this game didn't have any like really fun, good moments or set pieces or anything like that. But it was the same dumb action film and stuff like that. But ever since then, I've been kind of chasing that in a Call of Duty game when I pick it up. I'm not expecting to have that happen again, because now I feel like with something like No Russian Level in the No Russian Level in Modern Warfare 2, where you play as a terrorist for a moment, or you play as a undercover terrorist, and then there's all these other things that happen in the game, in the different games that I guess I'm kind of expecting it now. I mean, really the biggest surprise to me. Yeah, I am, but
you're expecting to be surprised.
I am. Yes, exactly. So, but the one time that I was actually,
yeah, you're right though.
The one time I was genuinely surprised was, was when you're trying to get into Camp David and sneak in for the first time, and then you ultimately get shot and killed, and the simulation stops. That one of those first times where you're going through Atlas's simulation, and like the night sky becomes this big television screen that shuts off, and they all like turn off and stuff like that, and then a giant door opens up on the side of the wall like a garage door, and a truck moves out, and then Kevin Spacey walks in for the first time. It was a great introduction to that character, and it was a great introduction to what you're looking at might not be what it seems. And I was expecting
it was also
another
kind of
twist
tutorialization too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a good way to integrate a tutorial.
Of course. And then you play the same sequence again, which a lot of people probably could knock against it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like this one had something there, and I liked it for what it was in terms of what its campaign, and I kind of there was a few expectation things, but ultimately nothing really new with the weapons. The grenades are kind of a neat thing where that's new, where you don't just toss a grenade and let it just land where it lands. You can actually have it. The grenades do different things in this one, and I thought that was a little interesting. So yeah, I mean 8.5, and I'll continue to play Call of Duty games. It's just for now, this was one of the ones I thought that kind of pushed the envelope, although a little bit, far enough for me to come away satisfied from the campaign. So, and good job, Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, good job, Kevin Spacey, for being totally Kevin Spacey. Congrats.
Man, I just remembered that Black Ops had You Were Sam Worthington, which wasn't that important. But I just remembered that Ed Burns was in that one. He was awesome.
Ed Harris was in it.
Ed Harris,
too, yeah.
I'm sorry, not Ed Burns. Ed Harris. Yeah.
Ed Burns. Oh, man. All right, well, that was fun, gents. That was just
What are we
fun.
playing next?
Well, we are on to Devil May Cry DMC. This is the reboot from Ninja Theory, and I gotta say, Ninja Theory is, in my opinion, the shit.
Yeah,
and
they are one of the best action developers out there.
I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about too.
We've played one of their games. We've played Heavenly Sword. Is that Ninja Theory?
Yeah, Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
We played Enslaved as well. Odyssey to the West.
And then we played, and then we did.
No, that is
no.
Team Ninja. Yeah, easy to mix up.
Yeah, and right now they're working on a new game called Hellblade, which is the opposition of Heavenly Sword, which introduces another female lead. Hellblade and a female lead. Heavenly Sword, female lead. I think there's something.
This will be an interesting one to talk about, because I didn't care for Enslaved or Heavenly Sword, and Devil May Cry, the original games, at least 1 and 3, for me, were like the pinnacle of character action. So I was really scared when I found out Ninja Theory was making the new Devil May Cry. So this will be interesting.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
How I feel about it.
Cool.
Well, if you have anything bad to say, don't say it.
Bang!
Don't say it.
Don't say
All right.
it. No. All right. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, for all things Co-op Mode reviews, you can find us on the internet, on Facebook and Twitter. At Twitter, our handle is at Co-op Mode Reviews. Also, we are on the iTunes as well. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Nothing less than 5 stars. That'd be greatly appreciated. So again, thanks for having all 4 of us back on. It's great to have this group on the show again. It's a rarity nowadays. But yeah, it's always a treat. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in. We'll be back with our next episode, episode 58, DMC Devil May Cry. Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.